G'day, this is Dr. Justin Coulson, the author of 6 books about raising happy families and the founder of happyfamilies.com.au. Here with Kylie, my wife, podcast co-host, and mum to our 6 daughters. Because it's school holidays, we are sharing with you podcast conversations that matter. We think that this one is going to be really important.
Like all parents, we struggle with both the number of devices and the amount of time our kids spend on their screens. In this episode, we talk about the 3 C's of screen time: consumption, connection, and creation.
It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
4-year-olds don't need to be playing Fortnite, and 8-year-olds, they shouldn't be turning pro. I've got a genuine moral issue with this. I don't think that it's in any child's best interest that they're playing Fortnite at the age of 8.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Oh my goodness. Just lately, the children and their screens, I know that I'm the parenting expert and we're supposed to get this perfectly right all the time, but just lately, I actually had a moment last night where I stormed into the room and said, that's it, I've had enough, and I took the screens. I took the iPad, I took the phone, I said, you're never having them again, we're done with screens for the rest of the school term. At which point the kids started saying, yeah, but we need them for homework. We need them for homework. And that kind of meant that I had to backtrack a little bit and figure out another solution. Oh, by the way, I should introduce us. I'm Justin Coulson. I'm the founder of happyfamilies.com.au, and I'm a little bit stressed about screen time. Here with my wife, Kylie, mum to our 6 daughters. Is it bothering you as much as it's bothering me?
I think the challenge is, number one, we have 5 children still living at home.
Yeah.
And we have multiple devices.
Yeah, the number of devices is out of control.
And it's really, really hard at times to kind of just keep check of it all.
I don't think that we're doing it wrong, though, either. Like, we've been really clear. You don't have a phone until you can pay for it yourself. Then the iPads, they're school requirements.
Yeah, wouldn't you just love it if schools took that back?
I think that they should. I reckon, especially with kids in primary school, if the primary school wants my kids to have a device, it stays at school. Stop sending it home because it creates so much drama. And then there's the kids that we've got a couple of kids that have to have laptops for school as well. So and then there's your computer, my computer. We've both got our phones. Like, seriously, so many phones, so many screens. It's unbelievable.
Well, speaking about screens, I could not believe the headlines that I've just recently read. An 8-year-old Fortnite player.
Did you say 8 or 18?
8.
An 8-year-old Fortnite player.
So isn't Fortnite like M15 plus?
No, but it's 13 plus. It's a game that's on phones and you're not supposed to have it to at least 13 plus. It's got a lot of violent first person shooter sort of stuff.
So he was given $33,000 and a $5,000 PC for turning pro.
Wow.
As an 8-year-old.
33 grand. I wouldn't mind that gig.
Wow.
How old was he when he started playing?
4 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, that sounds really cool if you love Fortnite and you wish that you were that good, but I think the parents have got an obligation to look after their kids, and giving a 4-year-old a computer and saying, here, play Fortnite, and getting him 4 years of practice so he turns pro at Fortnite when he's 8.
I'm going to suggest that it was never their intention that he would turn pro. But my understanding also, when you think about the amount of hours that goes into becoming pro at anything, would suggest that his daily screen time would be through the roof.
Yeah, so Fortnite is a game that's not meant to be played by people younger than teens, although we've heard stories of Fortnite parties with 8 and 9-year-olds ongoingly. But these age ratings are not really a deterrent to kids, and obviously this kid's parents don't mind so much. I want to highlight some research that I came across in the last couple of weeks. This is brand new research that's just come out of an Australian university, out of Deakin University. It came out in just at the start of the month, in early April. And what these researchers found was that young children who spend large amounts of time on mobile screens are more likely to have problems sleeping and managing their emotions and behaviour. Now, we don't know anything about this professional Fortnite 8-year-old and his sleep habits or his behaviour habits, but the data is telling us a really interesting story. So I'm pretty big on saying, let's relax about screens, let's stop getting stressed out about them. But I don't feel like that when it comes to our little kids. And we get so many inquiries, so many emails, podcasts at happyfamilies.com.au, so many emails from people who are saying, how do I get the kids off the screens? Is screen time okay? What are we doing with children staring at all these screens? There's a PhD researcher who is behind this research at Deakin Uni, Samudu Malawachi and Dr. Sharon Horwood from the School of Psychology at Deakin, and they found this, and I quote, "The more time toddlers and preschoolers spend on smartphones and iPads, the greater the risk of negative impacts on their social, emotional, and cognitive development and sleep quality and quantity."
We talked about this last week in our episode from the doctor's desk.
Yeah.
And the research that had been found that children who have too much screen time are less likely to be school ready.
Yes, that's right. We were talking about getting kids up to scratch and they're falling behind there. So this is a different study again, but it just adds to this ongoing evidence. I mean, it's a really provocative topic. It's really controversial. And as children get older, I think that we can justifiably say the research is not as compelling. But when we're talking about little kids, kids under the age of 5, there is so many developmental factors that are impacted by the use of screens during early childhood that I just don't think that we can let them do it. I think that just looking at this research and finding what it tells us, Dr. Horwood said, we know that at least half of all toddlers and preschoolers who use mobile screens use them on their own. So they're not learning how to manage them. There's no limits necessarily on how those kids are using their screens. And the negative findings are really worrying given the wide use of the so-called educational apps that are available and that are supposedly considered beneficial for young children. They're not. There's so little research out there that would support that idea. But until we've got better understanding of the impacts, I think parents have got to err on the side of caution when it comes to early childhood screen use, especially given how much brain development is occurring with our little people. It's a really big issue. Let's talk about my 3 C's of screen use right after the break.
It's the Happy Families Podcast.
Are screens creating tension at home? Tweens, Teens and Screens is a webinar to guide families to healthy, safe super screen solutions. Buy it today at happyfamilies.com.au/shop.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. And today we are tackling the topic of screen time.
There is increasing evidence that children under the age of 5 especially, while there's so much neurological development occurring, should have screen time minimised. And brand new research out of Deakin University really points strongly in that direction, particularly in the context of this conversation we're having about this 8-year-old Fortnite player from California who was given like $30,000 and a $5,000 PC to turn pro. He'd been playing Fortnite from the age of 4 years of practice, and he's a professional Fortnite player.
You suggested before the break that you had 3 C's. You teased us a little bit. You said there were 3 C's that we could use for effective screen use.
Right. And this gets away from the conversation about how much screen use and instead shifts it towards what kind of screen use. That's a much more useful way to look at the way the kids are on screens because they're part of the fabric of who we are and what we do now. They're everywhere. So the 3 C's are based on our active or passive use of technology. Active use means that we're creating or we're connecting. The more we create, the more we connect, the more it seems that screens actually are quite beneficial in our lives. They're good for us to help to stay in touch with others. They're good for us to use our brains, our creativity. Unfortunately, so much of what happens on screens is closed rather than open. When you sit down with Lego or with those magnetic toys or with a pile of blocks, you're open-ended in scope. You can create whatever you want. When you're playing on a screen, it's usually really closed. There's only so many things that you can do in so many different ways. It's a closed environment rather than a wide open environment that the real world gives you. And so if we're going to talk about creativity on screens, we want to make sure that the children genuinely can create. We want to make sure that they genuinely can connect. They're our active forms of screen use. Our passive forms of screen use are basically built around consumption. That's where you sit there and you're fed stuff. You can have information given to you. You can watch TV. You can watch YouTube. You can listen to whatever. And most of the consumption that happens on screens is passive and unhealthy for our children. So those are the ways that screens are used. And we just look at it as consumption, connection, and creation. They're the 3 C's. And they're a much better way of measuring or identifying whether screens are being used in healthy or unhealthy ways, especially important for our little ones.
So when we talk about screen time, we often talk about, mobile devices and, being on the computer. But what about TV? Where does that fit into the picture?
Yeah, amazingly, I just read a study the other day that highlighted that watching good quality educational children's programming, like Bluey, for example, or preschool, play school, is going to be much better for our children in terms of the way that they're consuming media than holding their handheld devices and gaming or whizzing through some garbage that's on the internet. High quality children's programming is going to be better for them. So I would say stick them in front of the ABC on television before you before you go and give them a screen. It's going to be better for them.
So the take-home message today is?
Consumption, passive screen use, bad for kids, regardless of their age, but particularly for our children under 5. Oh, and also 4-year-olds don't need to be playing Fortnite, and 8-year-olds, honestly, they shouldn't be turning pro. I've got a genuine moral issue with this. I don't think that it's in any child's best interest that they're playing Fortnite as a professional at the age of 8. The content, the stuff that's happening on Fortnite, the language that's being used by the other players, all that sort of stuff and more tells me that no 8-year-old should be doing this. I think that it's really concerning. So minimize consumption, minimize gaming, and focus on creation and connection if screens are going to be used, or watch high-quality children's program on the telly. Keep the screens, the devices, the laptops, the iPads, the tablets, whatever, out of kids' hands.
Well, that's a great reminder. Let's wrap this up.
Okay, the Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media, and our executive producer is Craig Bruce. We've got an upcoming summit that you might like to know about. Little People, Big Feelings. All the details at our Facebook page, Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families. And if you'd like more info about making your family happy, such as with our ongoing monthly memberships, you can get all the details at happyfamilies.com.au.